Welcome back, everybody. We're now continuing our beginner guide for Don't Starve Together, continuing on episode 19. Once again, I do stream every day on Twitch TV, so if you guys prefer to watch me on there and ask me any questions that you might have not had answered in the comments, feel free to ask me there. But we're going to quickly continue on our guide here. So if you guys want to, once again, if you do have any questions, I try to answer the comments as often as I can, but if you don't, if you don't necessarily have the answer right away and you want to have it as soon as you can, follow me on Twitch TV, and you can then scroll down to my Discord link, join into the Discord, and feel free to ask any questions you'd like to there. So continuing on day 19, before we left off, we showed a few tips and tricks on how to fight spiders, do a few different things, but we're going to start getting you ready for a full moon. Day 19 is a perfect day to kind of get you somewhat started and ready to go for that. So once again, before we go too far, we want to get ourselves nice and ready to go with some more grass and some more rocks. So looking on our map, you can tell that there's two different ways that we can go. We can either go over here for a bunch of grass and possibly a few little rocks, or we can go to the left here where there's a ton of rocks, but they're surrounded by giant eggs. And as we mentioned before, when we walked by there, there's giant creatures there ready to attack us. So we're going to go the safer route, and we're going to go look for some grass, because grass is more so what we need. And along the way, if we encounter a few little rock boulders, we might smash them up. So let's quickly go do that real fast. Get ourselves some rock, get ourselves some grass. And remember that your miner hat does depreciate over time. So right now we're sitting at 19%, so we don't want to really use this unless we absolutely have to. And we always want to remind you that going next to, I think we've seen it in the corner of our eye, that a bouncing little trap was ready to go, and there was a little bunny in there. So you can also leave them alone. For example, the bunnies will eventually stop jumping when they do spoil or they do die, which will automatically turn into a morsel. So if you wait for that to happen, though, obviously you can let it sit there. If you forget about it, it will eventually turn into rot. But I would suggest, trying to get them before they completely die and then begin to spoil on the ground. So we now know that there's a little bit of a morsel there ready to go for us when we need so. And we're going to go, like I said, look for some grass and look for some more rocks. We're going to also be passing by something that we're going to come back to very soon, and that is a pig house. And we're going to be using those pig houses on a full moon day, and I'm going to explain why tomorrow. Now, you will notice that we left some of these berry bushes still close by, and that is because if you pick up a berry bush, and then obviously, as I mentioned before, you have to fertilize it, leaving some wild berry bushes out in the wild is sometimes better than having to bring them back to your base and then worry about fertilizing. So even in wintertime, those berries will always remain perfect. They won't spoil as long as they're actually on the berry bush themselves. So come wintertime, if we run low on food or filler, we can always run back there and grab a little bit of food. For example, if we run out of meat. Obviously, ice, if you eat it during wintertime, won't give you much hunger. So we're going to want to make sure that we have some sort of alternative emergency foods just in case. We don't necessarily need a lot of grass, but get yourself enough to have yourself a handful or two. I would say maybe around 16 to 20 grass is ideal. I usually always try to carry the max amount as I can on me, but that is completely up to you at the same time. One thing I always want to mention is that always keep your log suit and hat on you if you can, because as you can hear the hounds that are about to try to attack us. And the hounds are going to show up at random times. They're not necessarily going to be on specific days or anything like that. So they're not necessarily timed like the deer clops. You can try to time the, between days 6 and 10, but once again, they do show up more often when you at least expect it. So always make sure that you have either a friend near you or you are almost ready to fight at any moment. So you always want to make sure you have armor on you. Abigail is probably one of the best companions to have during a hound attack, because you can just let Abigail do most of the work and protect you. Now, when the hounds do attack, always make sure that you pick up both the hound's teeth and the monster meat that they drop. Sometimes they don't always drop a hound's tooth, so just try to get them when you can, because they're a very important late game. As the night continues, we're going to continue on trying to get ourselves some rocks as much as we can, but our main our main source is trying to get as much grass as well too. We don't necessarily need a lot of rocks right now. It's just more so that you never want to leave yourself with minimum resources when you could potentially have the time to get a lot, especially before winter, because as soon as winter hits, leaving the base is only unless you absolutely have to, and in order to get resources, and eventually try to do things close around your base rather than exploring through the maps, as long as you have the resources. But we'll talk about that when the time comes. Getting closer to winter, though, you can tell that now our temperature is really drastically dropping and beginning to drop even further as we walk away. Mind you, we do have our thermal stone that we should have warmed up before we left, but you know, I'll explain that once we get back as well too, because come wintertime, we're not going to want to leave our base without remembering to warm up our thermal stone. But the beauty, once again, about playing Wilson is that he has an added bonus for, once again, having his beard on him fully grown. So leaving that throughout all of winter is going to be a handy tool in case you do forget to have your thermal stone. These things that you're going to be mining are going to lead you to the caves. And once again, we're going to leave that alone because I don't want to open them up as of right now unless we absolutely have to. Now that we have a little bit of rocks and we have a little bit of grass, I'm going to continue on our journey and go over, well, since we're really close, and we're going to grab what is called a cut reed. And we're going to also try to get ourselves some gold if we can, but unfortunately, right now we're a little bit too far away from gold. And always remember that wormholes are an easy access to different areas. For example, the wormhole that is up there is currently undetected. We don't actually know where that leads to. But for example, if that wormhole led to, for example, this wormhole, we can go through there and automatically be teleported up there. So that is always something to look at, is where your wormholes are located as well too. So let's go ahead and grab ourselves a few reeds. Before stepping into this biome, you're going to want to make sure that while you're grabbing reeds, if you notice something starting to bubble beneath your feet, you're going to want to make sure that you be very, very careful. The swamps are one of the most unforgiving areas of Don't Starve Together because there's so many things here trying to attack you. And be very careful when approaching what looks to be like pig houses on the map, which are known as merm houses. Merms, just like pigs, will automatically attack you, and they will continue to do so until they kill you, but merms generally will always remain near their house just like pigs. So try not to just go too close to their houses unless you absolutely have to. There you can see the bubbling in what is known to be, if you hover over it, a wet tentacle. If you go too close to them, a giant tentacle will come out and attempt to attack you, and will do a great job of it if you get too close. So just try to avoid them right now, but going further, we might explain more on how to attack them and how to take care of them. So avoiding the merms, avoiding the tentacles, grab yourself maybe 12 or so cut reeds, and let's head back home, and because we're starting to get hungry, and we got to get ready for day 21. Now, getting ready for what is known as a new moon is different than getting ready for something known as a full moon. But I want to kind of get you used to knowing for like the even and the odd days that will kind of come a little bit later, but at least we want to get you kind of ready for that right now anyways. So on day 11, as we've seen before in the previous episodes, that is known as a full moon. But on day 21, that is known as a new moon. And a new moon will not cause the night to actually shift into where you can see out at nighttime. It will not make werepigs. It will not make anything of those sorts, but it will also do something different that kind of comes very, very, very far into the future and Don't Starve Together. If you approach any berry bushes that look like this, these are known as juicy berry bushes. Try not to eat them if you can help it right away, because when you cook these things, they will give you a lot more hunger than when they're uncooked, and that is something that really come in handy if you do find them on your way. So once again, we're going to get things ready for day 21, and to kind of just get you into that mindset. Now, nothing important will happen with the pigs or with the pigs that are on day 21, but you'll actually like kind of remember the fact that on day 21 it's a new moon, and on day 31, which is another 10 days after that, you got to be ready because all the pigs that are around you will turn into a werepig, which comes in very, very, very handy. So like come winter time, when day 31 hits, you're going to want to make sure that you are ready, you have some armor, because it's going to be very useful utility to have. So we're going to travel back, we're going to cook up our berry bushes, or our berry that we have here, and we're going to begin to eat them. And if we do have any extra meatballs, we can also eat those as well too. But I want to show you how good these juicy berries can be when cooked. So normal berry is only going to give you a little bit of hunger when you eat them, but a cooked juicy berry won't last long at all. They'll spoil in 1 day, and they'll spoil very, very, very quickly. However, cooked though will give you 18.8 hunger. And that's why I always promote. So 3 cooked juicy berries will literally fill your belly half full, equivalent to almost an entire meatball. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Now, instead of eating the seeds today, we're going to keep these seeds with us. We're going to keep the cut reeds with us as well too. Place the seeds currently in the fridge. Grab your cut reeds. Look to see if you have any gold in your inventory. If you don't, we're going to go ahead and try to get ourselves some. But before then, we're once again going to get ourselves attuned to day 21 or day 31. Just remember, if there's any days that end with the 1 after, that's what you want to start remembering, because those are going to be important nights going forward and Don't Starve Together. So when you have enough resources, you're going to want to make yourself a hammer. Now, a hammer doesn't necessarily need to be made off of an alchemy engine or science machine. You can make it on the go just like you would a pickaxe or an axe, and you want to keep that in your backpack if you can. And we are very low, once again, on rocks. We're very low on logs, and we're starting to begin to feel the effects of winter. So good thing is we left our thermal stone next to the fire, so we can grab a fresh thermal stone that's nice and warm, plop down our cold thermal stone, and begin to go out into the wilderness at nighttime, and our thermal stone will keep us nice and warm. Our miner hat is still at 12%, so we're going to want to try to get ourselves something like that. So there's a few resources that we want to go and get ourselves. We want to smash down some pig houses, which we talked about, which we're going to do. And what I usually suggest doing to remind yourself of what you need to get done that day, take your backpack and put the items of what you're trying to remember to do in the top left corner of your backpack. So for example, we want to remember that we want to go and smash up some pig houses. So we're going to put that there. We want to remember that we want to get ourselves some gold. So we're going to put the cut reeds there. We want to remember that we need to get ourselves some logs. So we're going to put that there. We're going to remember that we need to get ourselves some rocks. That'll remind you periodically of what you need to get that day without continuously reminding yourself every few minutes.
Thanks again for watching this video. See you in the next one.